I'm going to start with the statistics, and this is per the CDC website. 38.4 million. This is of all ages. 11.6% has had diabetes. That's massive. The study that just came out around the kids, 8.4 million, ages 12 to 17, 32.7%. If this doesn't make you sit up in your chair or your car seat or wherever the heck you're listening from right now and take notice, I'm telling you, I'm raising the alarm, especially if you are a parent. That is up from 2005 to 2016. It was 1 in 5, it was 18%. It is almost doubled since what? Now we're 2025, 9 years, and it just keeps going up. And I just think that is an actual crisis. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We're your hosts, Susan Robbins, certified epigenetic human performance coach,
and Kate King, licensed psychotherapist, board-certified art therapist, and award-winning author. Together, we bring two perspectives, two styles, and one shared passion for epigenetics.
On this podcast, we delve into topics such as environment, nutrition, fitness, mindset, social dynamics, and trauma as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone.
We recognize that everyone's needs are unique. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions for your mind, body, and heart. The true magic lies within you.
So if you're ready to create a radiant life through epigenetics and reclaim your authentic self, then buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We are your co-hosts. I am epigenetic human performance coach Susan Robbins, and I'm here with the lovely...
I am Kate King, and today we are talking about pre-diabetes for pre-diabetes that leads to type 2 diabetes in children and adults. So this is not about type 1 diabetes. It's about the type of pre-diabetes that leads to type 2. And Susan has a lot to teach us on the topic. I'm really excited to learn from her. I know she's really jazzed to share some interesting statistics and also some new research around this that has come out recently that's really alarming about really how big of an issue prediabetes is in our society and what we can do about it, how we can know if we're approaching those dangerous levels, what we can do if we're tipping into prediabetes or full-blown diabetes type 2. And Susan's got all of the epigenetic information about how you can support your system best if this feels like you or your child or someone you love. So, Susan, where do you want to begin with this today?
Oh boy, I'm fired up. So this came about, we talked as we came on today, and I said, I'm fired up about this. And I was doing the Instagram scroll last week, and I see Dr. Mark Hyman, I follow his page, and he had a post on there, the CDC's new research out that 1 in 3 teens is pre-diabetic. And that ticked me off, and I'm going to tell you why. Because there is really not much more that is preventable than prediabetes. Now, and to hear this with children, so I started on a little rant the other day. As I'm out walking, it just fired me up more because these are our children. And we know that, right, genetics are turned on and off by foods, by activities, by all of these things, lifestyle. Kids are not born with habits. They learn them. So this is starting with parents when it comes to children. So I'm going to talk about statistics with adults. I'm going to talk about statistics that have come out around the kids. And I'm going to talk about the difference between there's prediabetes and there's insulin resistance. And people put those interconnectively, but they are different, and I'll explain that. We're gonna talk about lab levels, where we see, like, the caution, and then Kate's gonna talk about some of the mindset around even adults and kids with body shaming, body image, because one of the big factors is being overweight. And we also know that, and I know that, working with it with the PH360, some of your bigger health types will tend to be the bigger people, and they're more prone to issues with glucose and insulin. But this is absolutely a crisis, and I think it's driven by so many different things that are all lifestyle. It's the environment, it's the foods, it's the lack of movement. It is stress, stress, stress. I'll tell you about my experience wearing a continuous glucose monitor and what that showed me, and hopefully this will be an enlightening episode for you and or your children, people that you know.
Also, I think, yes, it's a crisis. We just add this to the list of all the things that are a crisis right now. And in addition to this being a lifestyle and a stress crisis, I think it's also a trauma response in a lot of situations where people use certain lifestyle behaviors or
Sure.
their relationship with food could be based on
Mhm.
trauma. It could be
Absolutely.
like part of their family dialogue. I can talk about the cultural aspect here as well. So there are
Mm.
so many contributing factors when it comes to
There
illness
are.
body, and they're mental, they're physical, they're emotional, they're psychological, they're energetic, they're cultural, they're epigenetic. So I just want everyone to know as we slide into this conversation that this is complex, it's multifaceted, and it is rooted in so many places. So
Yeah.
things are coming up for you as you're listening to this. Send us an email. Comment on our Facebook page. Let us know. And if there's more to be spoken about, we're happy to do follow up conversations about this and go into more.
Absolutely.
Because it's
Absolutely.
probably more complex than we can handle in one episode alone. So just
Oh,
communicate
yeah.
with us and let us know what else you want to know about this.
Yeah. We could do a whole month just specifically on issues around blood sugar and causes and whatnot. And just to let people know that we do have a Facebook page, Everyday Epigenetics, Raw, Real, Relatable Chat. Come in there and give us your questions. Give us your feedback. Tell us if there's a specific guest you'd like to try to us to get on there or specific topics. Tell us. We are here for you guys. So please, please, please join the group. Come in, be active, give us feedback. We're here for you to put out the best podcast for you. Give us the input. Okay. So I'm going to start with I have so many notes written down here because we have so many things to cover. So I'm going to start with the statistics, and this is per the CDC website. Adults, 38.4 million. No, this isn't adults. Sorry, this is of all ages. 11.6% has had diabetes. That's massive. The study that just came out around the kids, 8.4 million, ages 12 to 17, 32.7%. If this doesn't make you sit up in your chair or your car seat or wherever the heck you're listening from right now and take notice, I'm telling you, I'm raising the alarm, especially if you are a parent. That is up from 2005 to 2016. It was 1 in 5, it was 18%. It is almost doubled since what? Now we're 2025, 9 years, and it just keeps going up. And I just think that that is an actual crisis. And like I said, kids are not born with habits. They are taught in the home. Now, pre-diabetes, this is when your blood sugar numbers, so if you go do a fasting glucose test, your number is going to be high, but it's not high enough yet to be considered type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is an autoimmune condition. That's completely different. Most of those people, you have some born with it, some get it for whatever reasons, but that's one that you can't control. This you type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, pre-diabetes is so brought on uh, due to lifestyle and is fixable. Okay? So it's not a sentence that you're going to be stuck on this. And it's a struggle to basically regulate glucose effectively. Now, the difference there is you have insulin resistance, and that's insulin carries glucose from the blood into the cells where it can be used for energy. So, with insulin resistance, the cells don't respond effectively to the insulin, so it will cause buildup of glucose in the blood, and that's where we'll see elevated glucose levels, and we'll also see elevated insulin levels. Your levels that you'll see on a standard lab test that they say are normal levels that reach up to 100 for your fasting glucose, and that 100 to 125 is considered pre-diabetic. Over that, you start to get into the type 2 diabetes realm. Now, I look at optimal levels. I don't want to see a client or myself up around 100. So, optimal glucose levels typically will be about 85 to 95. I like to have myself and my people in the 80s up into the very low 90s. When I see you get 95 or up on a consistent basis, that's telling me we're teetering on that edge I don't like to teeter on. So, again, you're going to have different practitioners, different coaches may have a little bit of variance in what they like, but that's go ahead. Okay.
I just have a question for you before
Yeah.
you move on. So is there any number of glucose that's too low? Is it possible to be below the 80?
It is. That's hypoglycemia typically.
Okay.
That's gonna be more rare, but you can see those drops in some blood sugar that can
That's a
that can be
problem.
unhealthy.
That's a problem too. There's this like Goldilocks
Yes.
spot in the 80s and low 90s
Yeah.
that you want to aim for.
Right. You don't wanna be like I know when I had my CGMers, continuous glucose monitors you can get, you just attach them, they have a little stick and they go into your arm, and that will monitor your glucose continuously. And it's really actually a cool thing to see, and I highly recommend this. The one that I used was called Stelo, Stelo, and it was $99 for a month. And they send you 2 glucose monitors, and each one lasts 2 weeks. And they'll tell you, "Time to change it, get it out." We just pop it off and pop the other one back on, and then you download the app. So I was watching my glucose in real time. I was glued to it. And what was so telling to me was I was waking up a lot in the middle of the night, like shaky. I was dropping below 70. And I'm using because I am prone to insulin resistance. So I take a supplement called berberine, which helps with blood sugar regulation. And I was doing that at dinner, which is typically a time when you would take it, morning and then evening with dinner. When I was taking that, it was dropping my levels too low. I ate a very low sugar diet. And so I was waking up, my body was actually alerting me that your sugar's too low. I
Okay.
would get shaky, rapid heart rate. And I noticed that the only times I spiked, one time was with an apple and almond butter. So here, the experts say, eat the sugary thing, and apple's gonna be a little bit higher glycemic index, so it'll amp your sugar up a little quicker, your glucose. But if you eat it with fat or protein, it's gonna slow the absorption. I spiked. The only time with food that I spiked, which shocked me, but the other 2 times when I really spiked was stress. And that, again, just so telling. So the CGM, I highly recommend. Go to Stella.com. A lot of them you'll have to have prescriptions for, and they'll run you about $250 a month. You might get insurance to pay for it if you have issues through your doctor to help get it prescribed. But the Stelo is without a prescription. And it's Dexicon based, which is really good quality. And again, it's just another tool you can use to understand your body and how it's reacting because it may react to foods that you didn't expect it to react to, or you may see that, wow, stress rally actually really is playing a part. What's happening when you sleep, things like that. And then insulin, we like to be 6 or under is ideal. Again, we're looking at ideal numbers here that we like. A1C is an average over about 2 to 3 months of blood sugar, and that typically for optimal to see about 4.8 to 5.1. The range you'll see on labs is up till 5.6, 5.7. They'll say, "Oh, you're starting to get into a bit of a danger zone." That one again, it's an average. It's a good gauge to have, but I would not look at just glucose because that's you're going in the morning, you're going and getting a blood test done, and that's where you're sitting that day. It can fluctuate, and that's the other thing seeing the CGM, using a CGM, you can fluctuate all over the place, right? So when you see a good range of where are you averaging, that's super helpful. So you don't want to rely just on glucose, just an A1C. Get your fasting insulin done as well. A nice full panel there so you can actually see what's happening. Okay, so when you're the A1C, they consider it prediabetes or diabetes when you're over type 2, 5.7 to 6.4. Over 6.4, you're the type considered type 2. So 5.7 to 6.4 is really that prediabetes, and and if your insulin's high, you're sitting with that insulin resistance contributing to all of this. My big rant again that I did I did on my social media was, um, when it comes to the kids, I'm calling out the parents because the habits start at home. And the habits we're seeing kids are aging much quicker at a much higher rate. I saw this with True Diagnostics interpretations, and I saw that with young adults they're just aging at a higher rate. And I think the bringing technology to kids at such early ages, we used to, and I don't know about you because I've got quite a few years on you, Kate. But when I grew up, it was like you had your cartoons in the morning when you had your breakfast, and then it was now go out and play, go be active, and come home at dinner.
Mhm.
And it has changed so drastically. It's the kids are on the technology all day. They're not moving as much. The kids that do sports or activities, so they're moving, but then parents say, "I don't have time to cook because I'm working, we have to go to these games." Take the time because you can take it. Anybody can make the time. Do some food prep ahead of time. Set yourself up for success for you and for your children so that you're not stopping at McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out Burger after the games to grab something quick. Go to the store and grab a natural rotisserie chicken and some salad or some veggies, whatever. But think ahead of time and plan so that you're not in these situations that everybody is going home or eating out and eating a bunch of junk because it's quick and it's easy. And a lot of times it's at 8 o'clock at night. And I've heard some parents say, well, it's 9 o'clock at night by the time we get home. Have something you can even bring in the car, pack a cooler. Pull the chicken apart ahead of time, put it in the cooler, have the protein, have some baby carrots, like things you can grab, a hummus, right? There's things you can do. It just takes a little bit of time and planning. And if you think you don't have the time, that's a lie you're telling yourself because you have the time to sit and scroll on Facebook and Instagram. And you have the time to play online, play your games. You have the time to watch your favorite TV shows.
I think something a lot of these parents tell themselves is, first of all, there's a narrative of, I am so crazy busy. I'm chasing my kids around. I don't even have time for myself. And it's probably true. These people are so overwhelmed. Actually, I have a family like this within my family system, and the kids are so athletic, and they're Chick-fil-A on their way to
Yeah,
and from. And I think that there is truth to how busy and how stressful these families are, and where there is not action is they're not eliminating anything from their schedules.
exactly. Exactly.
So there may truly be no time for meal prep because they're making time for other things, too many sports events in the
Yeah.
evening, professional sports as well as their kids' sports, too many
Yes.
and
Yes.
too many group football games where there's a lot of beer and nachos. Like the priorities need to change.
It's priorities.
So that's the first thing I'm seeing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Second thing I'm seeing is this sort of bargaining that happens where it's the kids are so active, so it's okay to feed them junk food because they equal each other out. And I can understand how that would justify a busy parent who's feeling stressed and stretched too thin, but it's not just about the calories, the sugar, it's about the chemicals in the food. It's about the eating mindlessly. Drive-through eating is also happening while you're on your tablet. Maybe you're eating
Mhm.
not listening to your satiety response and how full you are because you're eating mindlessly. Even if you're active, it doesn't make it okay to binge or to eat unhealthy foods, right? Maybe
No, no, you can't exercise away a poor diet or a poor lifestyle. It's not gonna happen. And it is sugar. Sugar is a major cause of inflammation. Too much inflammation leads to disease and disease in the body. So it's a major culprit. And I always say I'm not about ever saying that everything is one thing is right for everybody, except when it comes to sugar, because it- there it is such a cause of issues in body and the brain as well. So we have kids that are so amped up on sugar that they can't think straight. They're look at our performance in schools. Like, it's there's just like we said, there's so many components to this that we could offshoot like a tree, just go different branches of things. But I think you're 100% correct with people are overextended. They're afraid to say, "No, I don't have the time." But if you don't take the time and start working these habits in, everybody and then because then you hear the whole family's sick. It's no surprise because the whole family, the bodies are gonna start shutting down saying, "If you're not gonna stop and you're not gonna take care of me, I'm gonna force you to." So you see this because stress and sugar lower the immune system. So
Mhm.
you wonder why this happens and why for some it keeps happening over and over. Right?
And
And
extend outside of a family to, like, your kid's team because you have groups of families who are all in cahoots. It's, "Okay, so the Smith family is bringing snacks on Tuesday, and the Jefferson family is bringing snacks on Wednesday." What snacks are they bringing? Sugary snacks.
junk.
They're
Yep, all
bringing,
junk.
like, those tubes of yogurt full of sugar, or they're bringing Izzy bubbly water with tons of sugar in it. They're not like, I don't know, when I was a kid, we used to do orange slices or watermelon slices, like, still sugar,
Yeah.
but
Banana, it's still different.
different.
It's not that processed.
Yeah,
And then you like you said, you've got chemicals, colorings, all these things. You don't know how you handle gluten. Do you know there's actually gluten in half these products too?
right.
That would shock you. So many different things. So that's the food part of it. Why not start a circle? Because if your kids are athletes, why do you want to feed them junk? Because these bodies need actual fuel. Think about how their performance is going to do. Think about how much better they're going to sleep, how much better their schoolwork's going to be. All of this plays in. And that's just from, like I said, from the food portion of it. When you clean up the food portion of it, and we'll talk about stress and everything else going in here, your better habits around stress as far as removing their electronics before bedtime at a certain time. Their sleep's going to improve. And we know recovery happens better when you get sleep, and sleep is crucial. And more sleep, quality sleep is even more crucial for your kids. So you see how all of this plays a part because they're scrolling into the hours of the night when you don't take their phones or to have hours. Stop being your kids' best friends and be parents. Give them that structure that you may piss them off for now, but they will thank you for it later to give them structure around this. And again, this is where the habits come from you. Are you showing them that no one's maybe you're all sitting there in the TV room when you finally do get home after you've had your fast food after the activity, or you're eating a meal that you threw together of hamburger helper and saying it's a home cooked meal. So again, these things we tell ourselves, like you said, that make it easier for us to cope with the excuse as opposed to I need to start making changes that are gonna ripple effect out to my family, and I speak from experience. I have had a family, I've been married, had stepkids, but also we're having worked with families. Kids actually like real food. They just a lot of the time don't know what it is, right? Because we've been giving them so much process. I had a friend years ago, she had a young child and we're on the phone and she's, "Go ahead, just grab another Snickers to leave me alone." And even back then I thought, "Yeah, this is what's happening." So it comes from, I think, self-care with the parent. Stop overcommitting, set some boundaries. You can say no, it's okay. And I think we're going to do a podcast on saying no at some point coming up, or at least one of our minis on saying no and how that's actually pretty healthy to be able to say that and make that time for you. But start with that food, start taking control and work with a coach. Work with somebody if you're not sure what food you should eat or how to go about doing it. But I will tell you, one of the easiest ways is stick around the outer aisles of the store, the produce, pick the pretty colors. Don't just stick with, I'm just going to go get iceberg lettuce and a steak, right? Different colors have different nutrients, antioxidants. When we're super stressed, when we're eating junk food, when we're being super athletic, that can create issues with inflammation genes, and that's going to be a lot of oxidative stress on the body. So you want antioxidants. They are rampant in your different veggies and some fruits. So pick the different colors because you'll get different nutrients, and that's what we want, nutrient density. Pick the pretty colors, go for the fresh meats, air fryer, great time savers, right? Air fryers, instant pots, so many things you can do to save time. The old back in the day crock pot. Throw the stuff in the crock pot in the morning or the night before, let it go, and you're good for the next day. Think ahead. Just take that time instead of scrolling, instead of watching TV, take that time for you because it will give you a sense of calm to have a plan for that next day or that week. If you can plan it out for the week, take that time on a Sunday. Maybe include the family. And I've had families do this. Let's have a family discussion. How could we prep together? Get everybody involved, make it an activity. And then activity wise, it's still summertime, it's staying lighter. There's no school activities going on right now. I have a client, she and her family, they have a standing date on Wednesday nights. They could do a family walk around the lake.
Mhm.
Take
Yeah.
that time to do these activities with your family. Hop on bike rides. I see a lot of people taking kids on hikes, which I think is great. What I don't like is they get up to the top and they start breaking out bags of candy. And I'm going, you just did all this. Now you're going to pick up a bunch of sugar and they're going to be wired and then they're going to crash. Take healthy snacks with you.
I think
Bring
it's
fruit.
important to mention here, so I'm a parent, I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. If you're a parent and you're listening to this and you're feeling picked on or shamed or called out, it's not our intention to villainize you and to shame you at all. We are trying to empower you into accountability, into a new reclaimed responsibility of your role as a parent, which is a lot of modeling for your kids, a lot of teaching for your kids. And we know you're stressed. We feel it too. Like, it's real. It's real what you're feeling,
Yeah.
and it's also real that this epidemic is happening. And so please don't feel shamed by any of
Attacked,
yeah,
not
either
attacked.
fact,
No.
yeah. So, Susan, I have a question for you, and maybe this applies to both kids with prediabetes and adults. So, I think that oftentimes people don't realize how much they don't want diabetes. They think of diabetes as something where they're like, oh, if I have it, I'll just do the treatment and it'll be fine. And I don't remember exactly what it was when I heard this, but I heard a doctor speak and he said if he was given the choice between having HIV or diabetes, he would choose HIV. And I was shocked by this, probably because I grew up in the 90s when, like, HIV was really scary, and we were I
Yeah.
but now there's a lot more treatment options for HIV, and he was talking about how there really aren't that good of treatment options for diabetes because it takes 15 years off your lifespan. It affects your vision. It could result in amputation of your
Amputations. And
so
that's
I wonder,
hard.
Susan, would you please let people here know why diabetes is a big deal and why we want to avoid it? Because I think we all were like, yeah, diabetes is a thing, but not all of us know how bad it really is and how much we should have want to avoid it. So can you tell us why we don't want diabetes?
I think you just named all the reasons you don't want diabetes. But also think about this, and this is the majority of my people that come to me that are overweight have high glucose levels, right? And a lot of them are insulin resistant and or pre-diabetic, or they're already into the type 2 when they call me and go, I've had people call me, I just got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. This isn't going to work, right? Because you get put on medications to try to manage it, but who's really going into what's happening in your life? That is the factor of this. But it can cause the neuropathy. And again, that can lead to amputations. You'll see feet, legs, painful, painful. There's people that can't walk from it, super painful. When you think about the whole COVID issue years ago, who were the people that were the highest risk of death? Were those with comorbidities, and one of them was diabetes. Anytime you have any type of a chronic disease, it's putting your body at risk. Why do you want your body to be at risk? Because down the line, that's going to be, again, it's literally taking years off of your life, and it's affecting the quality of life. You're going to be tied to medications. You're not going to feel good. Is that the kind of life you want to live? Is that a quality of life that you want to live?
Mhm. I think a lot of people
And
have, like, a perspective, like, "I'm gonna get something, so I may as well." It's like the YOLO perspective of live
you
my life,
only live once.
eat
Yeah.
what I want, drink what I
Yeah.
want,
I'm going to
do what
die
I
anyway.
want, and then deal with it later, and I think what happens with diabetes is that when people are dealing with it later, when the inevitable pre-diabetes tips into full-blown type 2 diabetes, they feel so terrible in their bodies, in their
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
amount of medication, the amount of risk, I don't
Yeah.
think they were aware of what they were headed towards because
Yeah.
they minimized it for themselves and they think, "I just wanna eat what I want and do what I want." And
Yeah.
so we really have to protect our future self by making choices in the present, and as we were talking about earlier, we have to protect the future of our children by teaching them these habits young and
Mhm.
by supporting this in our communities because who we are today is developing into the society we will become decades from now. And
Absolutely.
we really want this 1 out of every 3 children who's pre-diabetic to become 1 out of every 2 or every.
And so also think about this. It affects the brain. You'll hear a lot of people calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because we see that that plays a huge part. I'm an ApoE4. I'm increased risk. I've talked about it plenty of times on here. One of the things I have to do is keep a low glycemic diet, keep my blood sugar in check. That's one of the reasons I did that CGM to see what really works with me. So I know stress, again, a big factor. But think about the financial. I'll hear coaching's too expensive. Have you seen the cost for diabetes? Have you seen the cost for chronic illness? Invest. Invest in your now, in your quality of life, and in your future, and work to get these things under control. One of my clients, he is definitely pre-diabetic and insulin resistant. I think we talked about him on here, but it's recent, and his labs were teetering on the edge of the type 2. And 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, he is now, because I meet him with him this afternoon, and he just he sends me his foods for the week, everything he's eating, drinking, exercise, weight, blood pressure. His blood pressure, he's on blood pressure meds. His blood pressure's in now a healthy range. His glucose range is 83 to, I saw one go up to 93, but typically 83 to 87, 89 on a regular basis.
Beautiful.
Years ago, we got him off gout meds. I mean, see the difference, like, just in how to tweak your food. And with him, it wasn't doing a low carb diet. And that's the first thing they'll tell you is you need to cut all your carbs. He is actually highly plant-based right now because that's what we do at the PH360. He's a guardian. And they're very prone. Guardians, Diplos, especially up Diplo Guardian Cusp, are very prone to issues with insulin and glucose. What doesn't tend to work for them are these carnivore and keto that are cutting all the carbs. It puts more stress on a body that is already showing stress. If you've got any type of chronic illness, that's physiological stress in the body. And that's creating It's creating stress in the mind, so your body's in a perpetual state of stress, and that affects inflammation genetics. And again, there we see the progression of more disease that comes. I don't even know where the hell I was going with
I have a question actually. So, my question is we have this childhood teenager prediabetes, and then we have adults with prediabetes. Are those the same or does it present differently? Are there different risks depending on your age?
I don't know. I think as you age, you're always at the aging process, you tend to become more prone to things happening because there's so many changes within the body. But again, if you work with those changes and adapt your lifestyle, whether it's menopause, men with lower testosterone levels, like just as our bodies change, maybe you move to a completely different climate. You have to adapt these changes with your body. And then you're going to have a much more seamless type of it. You're when you're younger, you're definitely gonna have different needs. So if I'm like with a PH360, I have to have a child that I've worked with has to have at least be through puberty. So I've actually worked with a 14-year-old, 16, 18, 17-year olds. Did have one, no, it wasn't, that was genetics, a 13-year-old. But you have different needs as a child and still developing nutritionally than you're gonna have for someone that's 59, like me. So, eating the same way, the same exact things for, say, an active athlete child as opposed to a sedentary adult,
Mhm.
the same amount, it's different.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's gonna be very different. Symptom-wise, when you one of the symptoms, like diabetes, we'll see it like excessive thirst. Again, you're you'll see indicators, the belly's an indicator, neck, that's one of the measurements that PH360 uses. The neck's a big indicator for diabetes, but especially when we're carrying that visceral fat around that waist to hip circumference, that's a risk factor you can look at as well. And again, I can bring somebody on, I'm onboarding them. Before I look at labs, I go, "I know you've probably do you have issues with glucose?" They're like, "Yeah." It's not a shock to me. But now you look at me and I don't carry much fat, but yet I can teeter on that edge of insulin resistance if I'm not dialed in.
Okay, so we can't just go on body shape and size alone. It's really
Cannot help it.
you have to go by the labs. And if you haven't had your labs checked in a while, it maybe is a good time to just go do it.
Yep.
Just go get
Yep.
your checkup.
At least once a year. If you've got issues of any kind, whether it's around glucose, lipids, liver, enzymes, kidneys, things like that, then you might want to add in another one at a 3-month point after you start different interventions. A lot of my people, if they're just working with me, a lot of times they'll come to me and they've been working with a practitioner and not getting anywhere, following generic recommendations or on a bunch of meds. And so they will be getting some regular labs there. And they'll have them typically recent if they start with me that way. And then I'll say another 3 months, let's do again the blood sugar, the A1C, the insulin, if it's someone that's dealing with an insulin resistance type thing. I've seen some do at 6 weeks. My client, again, he went at 6 weeks because he had a specialist he was seeing, a kidney specialist. The guy was like, "Keep doing what you're doing." It was like he was so worried about going to his kidney specialist because had developed some kidney disease. Everything we had him doing is saving him from major intervention
Mm.
from the kidney specialist. That's fantastic. And again, it's lifestyle. He dialed it in. He stopped the excuses and he said, "I have to make a change." And that's where you have to be at this point to say, "I've got to make a change." And just like the podcast that we have out this week, just start with one thing. Start with not going to the fast food anymore. Start with making a plan. Make the family part of it. And again, this is just around food, but and remember that everybody in the family might not be the same. You might have a child or a spouse or yourself that needs to eat more frequent meals. You may have one that doesn't need as much food as everybody else, or when everybody's eating a bigger dinner, they shouldn't be.
Right.
Or these late meals. Don't go have that big meal at dinner. Have it early so that maybe at night you just something super, super light. Because the last thing you wanna do, and this really affects blood sugar, is going to sleep with a full belly. Move. And the other thing is 10 to 15 minutes of movement after a meal is known to drop blood sugar levels. That's why I said go as a family, go take a walk after dinner, just 10 minutes. If you're gonna tell me you don't have time to do 10 minutes, I'm gonna call you out. So I am calling people out.
If that is a real problem for you, if you do not have 10 minutes, then there is a bigger problem to look at about your lifestyle, your priorities, your stress level, your commitments.
Yeah.
You could have 10 minutes to spare at multiple places in your day. So I think it goes back to
Mm.
factoring this in with your priorities, with your values, and thinking about your future self as well as whatever's going on in your current life because your current
Yeah.
your future self.
I think one thing you can do is, and I used to do this with clients, I should start doing it again, but I would give them list from 1 to 5, list your priorities. And do you know in the majority of them, I didn't see me, not me personally, them as me. I didn't see them put me in any of the top 5 priorities. Work, activities, friends. So I will challenge everybody out there, sit down and list out your priorities. And if you are not the top priority in there, because if you're the one that runs the family, you're in charge of everything. If you don't put you first,
Yeah.
you're the one that's gonna go down. And
Right.
then everybody else is gonna be like, "What happened to mom?" or "What happened to dad?" And
You
they're not
can't take
gonna know
care
where
of
it
your
comes
family. You can't take care of your family if you're not healthy. It goes back to take
to.
your own oxygen mask first.
Yeah. So really look at those priorities. Don't like jot them down first and then really go over them. Start looking at them like, is this really a priority? Where could I put preparing, whether it's preparing food, shopping, whatever. If you have a spouse or a significant other, split the difference. Hey, can you go do the grocery shopping? I'll do the cooking. Or let's do it again. Let's do it together. Or how can we do this? I live alone. So I know that that's my number one commitment to myself is because I know my stress level and I know my activity level. If I'm not fueled properly, I'm going to crash. I'm going to hit hard. I'm going to feel like crap. And I'm not going to want to do the things that feed me, literally feed my soul, my energy. So I make a couple of things every week. I portion them out, stick them in the freezer, and then I make another couple of things. So I'm always having a variety of things to grab for, throw them in the air fryer, throw them in the microwave. I don't care. There are ways to get you nutrition because the more stressed you are, the more you have to dial that in. And that's just how it is. And we think that's the last thing to worry about, but it really is a priority. That movement, sleep, again, sleep will affect your glucose. We see first responders, not just shift workers as a whole, they're eating overnight. They're awake all night long, right? They're not getting good sleep. They're super stressed. We'll see within the first couple of weeks a starting to change to insulin resistance. So if I take a like I've worked with first responders, stop them eating at night. Don't do the late night eating. Eat your last meal at 10 and then don't eat like I would when I did night shift at 4 a.m. going to Denny's for moons over my hammy. God, shoot me for what I did. But you see that you always see they start to put on the weight and they're always tired, just never feel good. The body's so out of its circadian rhythm. So get off the phones, get off the electronics, set schedules with your children to get off these things, get to bed at decent hours, bring it down instead of everything amped up and try to go right to sleep. You can't.
Yeah, and I
That
think
affects everything.
in addition to stress, I think sometimes for adults who are pre-diabetic, there can be more of a complacency issue with this where maybe they're not stressed, maybe they're retired, but they have lived such a long life and they've become so habituated into the way that they eat, the way that they have sedentary behaviors, the people they hang out with, that it becomes a very mindless lifestyle and it can become a chicken or egg thing where have pre-diabetes because you're not moving or eating well? Or are you not moving and eating well because you're depressed? Or are
Huh?
you feeling this way because you've been living this way for so long that you don't realize there's anything else that you could do? So sometimes for people who are in that phase of life, it's about getting the train moving in a different.
Yes.
Like, the train has built so much momentum into this sort of autopilot that you have to go 1 degree at a time into a different direction, and those can sometimes be the most challenging people to get to change because they're very set in their ways, and they even say things like, "This is just who I am.
This is who I am.
Eh,
Yep.
this is the
It is
type of
what it
we
is.
eat
I
at
take my
grandma's house."
medication.
Or it's like, "When you come to grandma's house, we eat this, like, deal with it." And oftentimes I see people who, like, maybe, like, millennial age people right now who have young kids, and they struggle so much with the grandparents who are feeding their kids heavy cheese casserole type things, or they're putting sugar. So one of my neighbors was telling me she just found out that her mother was adding 2 cups of sugar onto the fresh strawberries and feeding the
Ooh.
kids these fresh strawberries, and the kids were, like, eating these up. They're delicious. They're covered in
Yeah, well, yeah.
and so my friend was like, "These are too good. Are you adding sugar to these strawberries?" And the grandma was like, "Oh, it's just a couple cups of sugar. It's no big deal. It gets them to eat their fruits." And I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah.
So I think if you are in that season of life, or if you have a parent in that season of life and there's so much habituated autopilot and resistance to change, that's where you begin. You don't have to do some massive overhaul. It's
No, it's not big overhauls. It's
no,
just
it's our recent episode on
something.
making change. So
Start with something, right?
go look that up if you're a listener. Go find that other episode because really it could be stop putting sugar on the strawberries. That could be
Yep.
your change for the whole family.
So a couple things. Yeah, I think that just making that one change may be having a hard conversation
Mhm.
with your parents, with your grandparents to say, there's my kid's insulin resistant, my kid's pre-diabetic, or I'm pre-diabetic. I want you to know this is a severe on our health. So if you could work with us, or I will be happy to send some food. Do that too. You take control. You take control. I don't go anywhere without taking my own food. It's just because I don't know what's in anything else and I want to feel good. I want to make sure my body's functioning. The other is a study I want to throw in here. This was done years ago. And they had rats and they had cocaine on one side and they had sugar on the other side. And so they would feed the rats the cocaine, feed them all the sugar they wanted. Then they put where there was a little shock when they'd go for it. So they're going to the Coke and they'd get shocked and they're like, F this, I'm out. The sugar, they were like, F this, I'm gonna have the shit shocked out of me because I want that sugar. That's how addictive sugar is to the brain, to the body, right? Where they'll turn away the cocaine, which is woo, to I have to have the sugar rush. And that's the sad part of it. And that's why the kids will keep wanting to eat it because this is good, good, good. I want more. And then there's some genetics where they literally, once you start eating sugar, it turns off all inhibitions and sensing of fullness, and they can't stop. And I have clients that are going, my God, that's so expressive. They'll have blindly a sleeve of cookies there. Next thing they look down, like, where did they all go? Because it's mindless. It just doesn't register
Yeah.
the cookie jar gene. Now, when you bring up retirement, there's a couple things there, I think, too. Number 1, again, is the age, and it's those neural pathways of these habits that are ingrained as it's like you said, it's autopilot. And you have to work at what, 6 months, they say, to start changing these pathways by doing something different over and over and over. So that's why habits don't change just right overnight. I say it just takes time, be patient. You'll get there. Just stick with it. And then it becomes the new habit. But the other issue you'll see with a lot of people that retire that have worked for years, they had their social circle there, but they had this purpose there. And now they go, you have some that say, I want to go retire. I'm going to play pickleball and they're super active, right? But then you have others, they don't know what the hell to do with themselves. And a lot of the times now they don't, maybe they've been overweight already, or pre-diabetic or insulin resistant. And now they don't have any of that activity. They don't have those social, that interaction anymore. And then you start to see some depression come in here. So what am I going to do now? I'm just going to feed myself. I'm going to self-medicate with food because they don't feel they have purpose. A lot of times you can take that, have them volunteer, find somewhere to volunteer, something, find some sense of a passion or something that gives them purpose. And that can be helpful to where they stop turning less to the food and then start working with that food. But the other you also mentioned, you mentioned it briefly, social circles. A group I used to hang out with, they all ate crap, right? And I would sit there and go, "Okay, when we were out, I'm gonna be your pain in the butt, but I don't eat this and this and this. How can you work with me here?" And I didn't care that anybody made fun of me. I just tell, like, the waiter or waitress if I'm out, like, I need to eat well, so this is what I have to work with, and I just own it. I take things to barbecues. I let a host know for a dinner party, "Do you mind if I what are you serving? Because I have some food issues or I have to watch my blood sugar or whatever. Do you mind if I bring a dessert? Maybe it'll be a fruit salad or, right, something that I can have so I can still enjoy that social aspect, but not cater to what everybody else is doing." Because we still have that freedom here to do what we want. It's our bodies. If you say it's your body, treat it as it is. You don't owe anybody anything. And I will tell you, there is no party host or get together host that wants to feel like they contributed to you not feeling good or making you worse.
Yeah.
They want to help.
But
And a lot of times it's an eye opener to them.
yeah, or I do think sometimes they can get insulted, and I think they can say, "Oh, you don't like the food I make," or your healthy choices reflect how unhealthy their diet and lifestyle is, and in those type of circumstances, still bring your own food, still take care of yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Attacking them, their hurt feelings, their feeling insulted is their issue,
Them.
their responsibility, and it should not make you self-abandon and sacrifice what you need to be healthy. So really do the work inside of yourself to separate what's mine and what's not mine.
Yeah,
Emotion.
exactly. One last point I wanna bring up, and this is gonna be no one's gonna wanna hear this. I'm gonna bring it up anyway. When you're looking at blood sugar issues and you're out there drinking your beer or drinking that glass of wine or doing shots when you go out because it's so much fun. "Hey, girls, let's go do Jello shots," right? Whatever. Huge contributor. Again, look at the habits, look at your social circle. Is it a big alcohol fueled fest? If it is, it is contributing or the cause, one of the big causes of that blood sugar dysregulation.
Okay, question
Alcohol
for you.
is a big player.
Is it the alcohol itself? I know you and I both don't drink alcohol, and pardon me if this comment just makes no sense and is stupid, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is it the alcohol that creates the problem, or is it the sugar in the cocktails? Like, I know that there's a trend these days of low or zero sugar alcohol products. So, are people still safe to drink a low sugar alcohol product, or is it the alcohol itself that's the issue?
So that's a double-edged sword because again, everybody is so different. So I'm going to deflect there for because of this reason. We don't know what anybody else's genetics are. So even if it's not like if you're having blood sugar issues, I say just avoid the alcohol. And it can be the sugars in the alcohols. But what if you've got something like MTHFR variants going on? What if you genetically have issues with breaking down alcohol? What if you're an ApoE4 and you don't know any of this?
Mhm.
Then you're contributing. So the whole alcohol thing, again, this is one where I say again,
It just adds a factor,
it just adds another factor that I can't speak on as a general, or I don't want to speak on as general. So you can go do the low sugar wine because I know I did that years ago before I stopped drinking. I would go do all that and say that's going to help me there. But again, when I found out what I didn't know about myself, I was still contributing from that alcohol standpoint.
And I don't think alcohol
And
is good for anyone.
no, and you think about it, it gets detoxed through the liver, and that's where why does just my mind just went if you're having liver issues, then of course that's going to translate over into the blood sugar.
Mm.
Okay. And that's the alcohol.
Yeah. So it's an indirect negative variable. Even if it's not a direct issue, it could be creating a negative ripple effect that you see elsewhere in your system, creating all
Yeah.
kinds of problems that stem from the alcohol, but not directly. Right. So I have
And
to remember
yeah,
we are complex, we are holistic systems. And so sometimes it's not just A equals B, right?
it isn't. It's all the things. And are you drinking because you're stressed? Again, right? There we're doing that. A gene called PEMT. If you have even one variant in the PEMT, it's increased risk for non-alcoholic fatty liver. With two, 30% decreased activity. That's pretty big, and that's big. It's cellular membranes, liver health. That's a big player, and it also is a big player in methylation. I'm actually gonna be doing a series on choline, and that's the PEMT. How we upregulate that is with phosphatidylcholine, and
And you've put me on
it's
choline. I didn't
I put you on.
or I did the DNA with you, and so now I take choline, and to be honest, I'm not 100% even sure why I take it, but I trust you, and you've told me it's for my liver support, which I am.
Yeah, I think you were PEMT variants, and it's fabulous. Also, it's one of the I'm gonna call it the unsung hero in methylation. It's I don't wanna go all into methylation, I'm doing a series of that this week on Instagram on my shorts and everything, but or reels, but, it's a great substitute methyl donor when your B12 and folate are a little bit low. That choline can really come in there. And no one ever talks about, oh, if you have MTHFR issues, you're undermethylating, it's always B12 and folate. First one, not everybody tolerates those in the methylated form, but no one talks about choline. And I get all my people, I turn so many people on to phosphatidylcholine. It's fabulous for the brain, but it's a whole other thing.
Let
But
let's make a mini about choline because I think that could be really supportive for people. And the other thing too is I realize that we're out of time for our podcast today, but I'd like to also make a mini on the body image piece for prediabetes and diabetes because I think it's really important to talk about that. And I don't want to tap people out today with having too long of a podcast. So
yeah,
we will be recording a mini for you about body image related to prediabetes. And so look for that. And
I think I think body image not just pre-diabetes, because again, you're gonna see the majority of people are going to be overweight. It's just one of the side effects, right? So I think we could say body image around obesity and
yeah. So
pre-diabetes.
please look for a mini on that.
Yeah.
And so for today's episode, thank you so much. This was such a rich conversation, Susan. You've taught such an immense amount here. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure the listeners have as well. So, again, for the listeners, if you want more, if there's something we talked about and you want a deeper dive, please reach out and contact us through the Facebook page, through our individual websites. You can DM us, whatever works. And we're happy to support you. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the mini that's actually gonna be the Friday after this drops is on sugar. 'Cause
Mhm.
we just recorded it last week, not even realizing we were gonna do this today, so it just fell in, but I think your eyes will be open in the and into the hidden places where sugar is and how to read labels around sugar. I think enjoy that mini, and then we'll be doing the follow-up one on the body image. Yeah, please give us your feedback. Did you, Kate, wanna talk about what you're doing today to live your most radiant life through epigenetics?
You remember the question that I supposed
Did.
to remember. Oh my. Okay, so for my epigenetics right now, as some of I am in between two knee surgeries on the same knee, I'm reclaiming the authority that The reality here is that I am healing from surgery and preparing for another surgery. How I feel about that and think about that is my choice. And so I am choosing not to go into negative thoughts, into too much self pity, into resentment or fear. I'm choosing to be grateful for the gifts that this is teaching me and really thinking ahead to my future self, who's going to be so much healthier, more active, and happier at the
Yeah.
end recovery process. So that's how I'm cultivating my
Love
rate.
it.
How about you?
Because why create more stress on top of the physiological stress? You don't need the emotional stress on top of it. Good catch. Oh,
Yeah.
you must know a good therapist.
I live with her. I live inside of her.
What am I doing? I'm always doing, right? I think today I last night got to bed early. I woke up with a fantastic sleep score. I woke up with a 100 body battery this morning. So you can tell I'm
You're
right.
buzzing. Yeah.
I
You're
am
buzzing
flying
after
today.
2 cups of
Yeah,
coffee.
and this is chicory. This is not coffee. I drink chicory every morning. I love it. And got the car stuff taken care of yesterday. So that was like did my prayer last night, had a nice long prayer and meditation session this morning, and I'm gonna fuel great. I had great food prep this week, and I opened my drawer this morning. I have so many different things to choose from because everything is built up that I don't even know what I wanna eat, but I'm hungry and I'm ready. And then I'm gonna do a nice high intensity CrossFit workout today because my energy is just peaked. And yeah, so I'm just like super dialed in, super energetic,
Beautiful.
and that's how I'm having a radiant life today.
Okay, that's such a good example. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Please share this podcast with anyone that you think could benefit. Subscribe, share, follow our socials. You know the deal. Everything you need is in the show notes. Susan is going to include some links to some interesting studies and statistics for you in the show notes so that you can fact check all of this and dive deeper. And again, we are so supportive of you cultivating your radiant life through epigenetics. And we're doing this together. So thanks for being here. Get out
Yeah.
there. Have a great day. What do you normally say, Susan? Make it a
Get
great.
out there, make it a great day, and be your most authentic self. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, we'd love for you to share it, leave a review or comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Help us get this information out to everyone who could benefit, and we'll keep bringing you the content you crave.
You can also check out our podcast site at everydayepigenetics.co and sign up for our newsletter to stay updated on upcoming episodes. The link is in the show notes.
If you're interested in DNA or epigenetic coaching with Susan, or Radiant Life Coaching for deep inner work with Kate, our contact info is in the show notes below.
Now go and make it a great day and let your most authentic self shine.